Many games come onto the market and have huge commercial success. Roblox and Minecraft are great examples of this, with their huge world building potential. Now, when Grand Theft Auto 5 launched in 2013, it had the same potential, but Rockstar themselves didn't tap into it. This set in motion a series of events that would go on to set many examples of how operating in the grey area of the law can ruin businesses and friendships, reputation, and community rapport. And also how one idea turned into a multi-million-dollar deal going wrong. Now, recently a document has surfaced as a hit piece exposing the truth of what happened during the development of FiveM, the acquisition by Rockstar, and the fallout that followed. But is it the truth? In this video, I talked to the team behind the Liberty City Preservation Project, as well as prominent developers for FiveM, and even have the FiveM team make some direct statements about the project. But I do need to say, it's not possible to cover every element of the document in this video. It's just too complicated of a situation. But I will cover the important bits. But I also won't be covering the details of all the internal conflicts of employees, because I'm not going tit for tat on he said, she said, and all of those sorts of rumours, and there is a lot of them. This is the story of the downfall of FiveM, and hopefully, maybe we can revive it. In 2015, a user by the name of NTA started working on a project for an online modding platform for GTA 5. Essentially, this would allow people to play in an unrestricted version of GTA Online, where people could import their own vehicles, assets, and essentially make the custom online experience that all players wanted, without the need for shark cards or any in-game purchases. Whilst this project initially started off with NTA doing everything themselves, including managing all of the community support, as well as the day-to-day running, it eventually grew into a small team. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Take-Two initially caught wind of what NTA was doing and sent some private investigators to their house. This resulted in NTA essentially getting served a cease and desist. And to make a long story short, NTA ceased all operations of FiveM. In the aftermath of this, a lot of the FiveM community were very outspoken about how they loved and supported FiveM. And this made NTA think, how can I run FiveM without getting into trouble with Take-Two Interactive? This is where the idea of CFX.RE was born. CFX acted as a shell organisation, shrouded in mystery, where the truth of the matter was that it was actually still for the most part being solely run by NTA, but without tying their name to the project. This can then help them escape the legal ramifications from Take-Two Interactive. To fast forward a little bit, as FiveM grew and operationally costed more to run, NTA needed a revenue source to continue the project. And following this, the successful implementation of a revenue source, NTA then needed to hire people to run various tasks within FiveM. FiveM was growing at an extremely rapid rate. Now, with FiveM operating in a legal grey area, NTA couldn't just hire developers from anywhere. The developers would need to be from within the FiveM community and have an actual understanding of how FiveM operates on a day-to-day basis. So NTA decided to employ people from within the community. So this is where we introduce some more characters, but I'm not going to dive heavily into these characters for a few reasons, because the actual hiring of these characters in itself became slightly problematic. Hiring people through Discord with a vague understanding of who they are, their backgrounds, their health, their knowledge of any contextual information of who they are, is problematic. When hiring people in the real world, you can have an understanding, a vibe, and a feel for who the people are that you're actually hiring. Over Discord, where people abbreviate everything, you can't see their intonation, their hand gestures, and see how they're expressing how they feel, especially when their profile is just a random username and a cat picture. It doesn't seem like the right place to run a business that has the potential to reach millions of dollars in revenue. In the document I referred to earlier in the video, there are screenshots of many instances of people falling out with each other, childish arguments, petty moaning, and all round it was an exhausting read. It took me 3 and a bit hours to read the full document, and a large portion of it was people just arguing. And we'll get back to that later in the video. Before we go into the next chapter of the video, it's important to identify that there were problems with FiveM before Rockstar bought FiveM. FiveM was a ticking time bomb of self-destruction before Rockstar ever got involved, and arguably Rockstar's involvement probably made that worse. Despite NTA owning FiveM, it wasn't actually NTA that brokered the deal to sell FiveM to Rockstar. It was one of the employees at FiveM that began negotiations, with NTA only finding out later. And despite some frustration and anger from NTA, they eventually agreed to go along with it. Now, the document didn't go into this, but it was very obvious that CFX, FiveM and RedM had no choice. Sell to Rockstar or get sued. And if they got sued and tried to keep themselves running, they would have to bide their time whilst internal conflicts at CFX were happening all the time. From the outside looking in, this looked like a great opportunity for FiveM to finally get some proper management and structure from Rockstar. And I think the team at FiveM felt that also. So to get to the point, NTA was paid 20 million euros and the business was sold. But following the sale, some of the team were suggesting that they should get paid some of that money. And whilst not legally obliged to receive any of those funds, NTA decided to pay them to try and keep friendships intact during this process. The few million that NTA paid out was later refunded due to complicated legal situations that we're not going to go into in this video. But what you need to know is that the whole situation was messy, like really messy. Now, one of Rockstar's internal employees was promoted to a new position in a new role to manage this new arm of Rockstar, this CFX team. This person was Ethan Hirsch from the Rockstar New York office. Now, to make a long story very short again, the general accusations made about Ethan are that whilst he started off by being optimistic and pleasant about the acquisition, over time he began to neglect the CFX.RE team behind FiveM and RedM, and offered more favourable treatment to platforms such as NoPixel. The general consensus is that a lot of the decisions that were made weren't held uniformly across the board. For example, the terms of service stated that branded assets were not allowed to be used. This was enforced heavily within the FiveM community, but the same rules didn't appear to be enforced within the NoPixel server within the FiveM system. Now, FiveM prior to Rockstar's acquisition used to have a rule where if any brands requested removal of their brand from the server, the brand would be removed, and copyrighted content could be used if licenses were obtained. So for example, if you used a Porsche or a Ferrari in FiveM, and Porsche and Ferrari requested their vehicle to be removed, then it would be removed and that would be case closed. And for example, someone could request permission to have a Cyberboy t-shirt in the game, and if I said yes, they could use it. But Rockstar changed the rules when they acquired CFX.RE. These new rules meant that no copyrighted content could be used, regardless of if the user had expressed permission from the copyright owner. So it looked like Ethan Hirsch at Rockstar was giving preferential treatment to NoPixel, as these same rules weren't being enforced in those servers. This then led the FiveM team to start believing that maybe there's an internal conspiracy taking place within Rockstar, and more specifically under Ethan Hirsch's management, wherein NoPixel were given preferential treatment due to the development of Rockstar's new internal FiveM competitor, Rome, the Rockstar Online modding engine. Now, the team working on FiveM wasn't aware of Rome initially. It's only when they found out about Rome later that they linked some of the inactivity to resolve issues with FiveM to the fact that Rockstar probably has its priorities elsewhere. Now, we don't know too much about Rome, but it's essentially going to be like FiveM but built from the ground up, and probably going to be the future of GTA Online for GTA 6. At this point, the team behind FiveM felt a little bit like they're being left in the dark, and to be honest, so did the community. But this is where things need more context. For the rest of the video, I'm going to outlay some key issues, and I'm going to play devil's advocate and defend Rockstar, but also explain how Rockstar need to do better, because they do. And we'll hear from the community on some of these issues. Now, if I was Ethan in this scenario, and I was just promoted at Rockstar, and it was my job to manage the team behind FiveM, but every day there were arguments, reports made to HR, people threatening to quit over what other employees said to them, and people fighting over somewhat trivial issues, I wouldn't want to deal with it either. Now, does this mean that Ethan dealt with it correctly? Maybe not. We actually have nothing from Ethan about this scenario, and I did reach out to him for comment. We don't know what his thoughts, opinions, or intentions were. We can speculate though. Ethan needed to work with a team on the development of Rome, the Rockstar Online modding engine. It would appear like Rockstar's initial plan was to buy FiveM, work with the team on Rome, or potentially not even have Rome. and just rebrand FiveM to Rome for GTA 6. But from the second the company was acquired, the internal conflict within the team at FiveM probably made Ethan see that this is like floating up shit's creek without a paddle. The hundreds of arguments and disputes probably caused Ethan to be in a tricky situation with his superiors at Rockstar, so Ethan would have to fix the situation. And this is something that we saw in that document that Ethan had expressed. His job was getting made very difficult by what was happening within the FiveM team. Now meanwhile, whilst all of this is going on, there's people within the NoPixel server community and other areas of the modding community working together somewhat peacefully, willing to cooperate. And it probably made sense for Ethan to focus his efforts on internal teams that weren't reporting to HR all the time. Ethan's role was to manage projects and not people. And maybe he wasn't good at either of those things. But this document doesn't show us anything that Ethan actually said to come to that conclusion. We are basing this on hearsay, which makes my job very difficult. However, Rockstar isn't scot-free here. The FiveM team, the community modders, and the community of players deserve good and active customer support. They deserve to have a rulebook of what they can and can't do, and have it being enforced uniformly across the board across all areas of Rockstar services. In preparation for this video, I had a chat with Pickle Mods, a creator that makes awesome mods for FiveM, and he spoke about his struggles with being a creator and working on FiveM related projects.
My name's Pickle Mods. I started my Tevex store in 2022, and ever since the beginning, really, there's been a lot of issues when it comes to creating a fair and balanced environment for modding on FiveM. Rockstar purchased FiveM in 2023, and ever since that moment happened, there's been things like takedowns of servers for TOS infringement, but other servers get to stay up. It's a lot of stuff that doesn't seem right. There was a server in the document, the Fall of FiveM, that it was the RSM, right? The free roam server.
Yeah.
They got taken down. Well, no, sorry, they didn't get taken down. They self-took down, meaning they went on strike, essentially, took down their server until they could get a explanation on the enforcement, what things were allowed, what things weren't allowed, and they were just neglected. There wasn't anything that was being said to them or whatever from the team. It just felt like something that it's hard to say. Rockstar CFX is a very secretive company. They don't like to say much, and that leads to a lot of unnecessary drama that could be avoided if explanations were just there. But at this point, there aren't.
Yeah, I did get that impression reading through the document. I got to like 4 pages of chat logs where I was thinking, hang on, if a conversation had just happened, none of this would have needed to happen. And it kind of felt like there's a whole like 3 to 6 month period at a time where the whole thing could have been resolved with Rockstar or FiveM having direct conversations with various servers, whether it's NoPixel or whatever, to figure out a solution, especially when it comes to things like the terms of service and stuff like vehicles, badging and everything. Those sorts of conversations could have been resolved quite easily by having an open and honest conversation. So I do feel like that maybe Rockstar does have a bit of a motive here, especially with Rome coming on around the corner potentially in a couple of months to a year or so, or 2 years, whatever it might be. Yeah, I think that it's definitely quite complicated, and I feel like maybe different platforms within the FiveM ecosystem are being held to a different regard.
I personally, at this point, wouldn't take Project Rome seriously, considering that it just came out that, according to the document, that the new portal created for CFX was in relation to Project Rome, and that took a year to be developed, apparently. And if that's the current state of things, I really don't envision people switching over to a platform that's very slow to progress, whereas FiveM has community contributors that are, at the moment, outperforming people who are getting paid to maintain FiveM, and it just doesn't seem like people should be having this notion that Rockstar is going to replace FiveM anytime soon.
The only way that they could do it, and it's not a way that I necessarily agree with, is by completely shutting down FiveM, banning all services and integrations, and launching Rome and having that as the only legal way to mod, which I think if they did that, the backlash, I mean, I don't need to say it, the backlash would be insane.
I would tell you now, if they were to do an action like that, many creators will not be going to the platform, and Rockstar might be fine with that, but the community won't be. A lot of creators who have spent their lives on this platform know that these are people who sacrifice time with family. Like, I sacrificed my body for this. Like, I am somebody who does not go outside. You know, I don't have friends in real life, unfortunately. It comes with the territory of being a coder. But I literally spend all day working on projects for FiveM, and it just feels really disrespectful. Like how we're giving them 10% of our income, and yet no improvements to the platform happen. We try to reach out, it's slow responses or no responses at all. The only people that I've had great conversations with are the forum staff and Zin, the former community. I forgot what his position was. I think it was community coordinator or something, community manager. I forget which it was, but we had great conversations, and I'm really appreciative of that. But the people that are actually in charge, that are making these decisions, like whether or not coins are TOS or whether debranded cars are enough for abiding by the TOS, these people are not reachable. It's very impossible to get to these people as a creator, or even as a server owner. I've had many server owners come out to me and say, listen, do you know anything that we should know that maybe would help us abide by the TOS? And I have to tell them no, because I don't get to talk to these people. It feels like I should be able to, but it's just something that Rockstar still hasn't learned. And I really wish that they would hear me out, or the modding community out, and just like give us a chance. Because if you look at Twitch, for example, nobody's streaming GTA Online. They're streaming Grand Theft Auto RP. And where's that happening? On FiveM. And they need to accept that and embrace it.
I think as well, a lot of people don't understand this, and I'm hoping this video can help people understand this. You guys don't want to skirt around the laws with FiveM and Rockstar. You want to work with them, but it appears like they're making it very difficult for you just to work with them. Like you
exactly. Like, for example, right? If like, let me give you guys something as an example that would be TOS in the current stage of things. If you create a deal with a company, a real company, you have the license to bring that copyright in game, your server will be taken down. Your asset will be taken down. It is not allowed to use licensed material from a company that is copyrighted. Even if they give you permission, does not matter. The approach that Facepunch, Steam, and other UGC platforms take is normally to allow the content to be uploaded. If there's an issue, the copyright holder takes it down by filing a request. It is very simple. Yet Rockstar chose to enforce this method of it has to have no branding. You can't do any brand deals with real companies. Another example is the cryptocurrency ban, which I think is a good one because crypto currently is really scandalous, to say the least. But there's like so many things that you're not allowed to do, and creators like us are expected to walk on eggshells, essentially. I could get taken down just for speaking to you. There's nothing in the TOS that protects me from getting taken down. It literally says that they have the free right to take down any creation that they seem as unfavorable, or any creator that is unfavorable, or any server that is unfavorable. They can do it for any reason. It does not need to be that a law has been broken or anything. It could just be that they don't like you. And users on the forums have been banned for this reason, like creating drama, for example, even though they were just explaining a situation that happened at CFX. So it's a very unstable environment, and I feel like if people don't come out and speak about it now, it's just going to get worse. I do want to be clear that, like, I have no problem whatsoever with, like, FiveM as a whole. I think it's a great community. Yeah. It's just the people leading it right now that we really need to see change from. There are people who are like super angry. There's people like doxing. It's just like, it's something that we need to like talk to them about. and I hope they see your video. I hope they reach out to me in the community and just talk. That's all we want. We don't want another community pulse. We just want to be able to chat to you guys. That is it. Like I really want to see the best for FiveM. And the best for FiveM is what is best for Rockstar. We make them 10% of each transaction, and that doesn't include server boosts. That doesn't include the monthly subscriptions that they have for $65 a month, right?
Yeah.
That is money for free that they are receiving at this point, because apart from infrastructure, the community is doing most of the work and contributions from what I'm seeing on GitHub. So it's just like, we love them so much, we love Rockstar, we love FiveM, but we need the love back. The communication on Rockstar or CFX's end is so bad to the point that it's creating viewpoints that might not even exist. Like, for example, how they took down the Liberty City Preservation Project, right?
Yeah.
I made a tweet that same day that showed on FiveM several, all right, like at least 10, 20 servers where it had NYC in the name. They were using Liberty City maps in-game and having profitable servers. They were making money off of Rockstar's IP, yet they weren't taken down. And the perspective that creates, in my opinion, is that they don't care about taking down free mods as long as that they're able to create money on their IP being infringed on. Because if it's on FiveM, the 10% still gets sent to them. So they might be looking the other way and I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? That's just something that the lack of communication leads to. I don't think that's what they're doing. If they clarified what their stance is, if they said what they're working on trying to do, I would be open to understanding that, yeah, no, that's not intentional. But when you type in NYC and see all those servers and you see Liberty City Preservation Project get taken down a free mod, it makes zero sense. It creates an environment where like people are going to start getting suspicious of CFX or Rockstar, and all they have to do to avoid the suspicion is just communicate more often. That is it. That is all they have to do. It's something that is seemingly so easy, and as a lover of FiveM and CFX and Rockstar, it frustrates me. It makes me very upset, and it makes a lot of other people way more angrier. Because remember, these are servers making thousands of dollars a day that are risking getting taken down because of terms of service that they can't comply by. Another thing is, some of these servers, when they get sent a takedown request, it will just reference what standard they broke, give a few examples, and then tell that server to find the rest. That's not a joke. They tell them to go find the rest. If they don't find the rest within X amount of time, they come back, re-review the server. If they deem it necessary, they take down that server. It's very unfair. And I really wish that the compliance team was way more open and transparent about the process.
Yeah, I've read through the whole terms of service and I found like 10 servers that are direct violations of the terms of service. And I'm like, well, hang on a second here. Like, why is this no pixel server allowed but this one isn't? Like, why? What's the rules? Because clearly there's multiple standards here, and the truth is maybe some of these other servers are in direct violation. Maybe they are, and maybe
100% there are some, yeah,
and maybe Rockstar haven't had a chance to review them yet. But all that says is that Rockstar need to employ more people to manually review this stuff. There is no scenario here where Rockstar are in the right. They definitely need to work on how they manage the platforms, and it comes down to what you said: communication. It's not hard, and Rockstar are notoriously the worst games developer at it.
It would be really nice if they could create a Discord or something for creators and server owners that, they recognize. Obviously, it wouldn't work if every single person in the world could join, but just like a lot of people who can get the word out that Rockstar is trying to do things, they're working on stuff. And I feel like if they gave us an opportunity to join a Discord or something where we'd be able to reach out to the leadership at CFX, things would progress a lot better than they are now. A lot of the issues that are going on at CFX right now are mainly due to the lack of communication and confusion regarding what is and isn't permissible. There's even this issue of products that are getting approved on the forums, right? For the forums on FiveM that are just slop. Like, people are able to upload basically whatever. Hopefully they fix that too, because people are basically able to charge whatever they want for something as simple as a golden bowl, a 3D model that somebody made for $500 that wasn't taken down until a few days later. It just shows that there's not really any process for reviewing new assets, and that does present another challenge for CFX as well. But if they open that communication path, a lot of suggestions, a lot of ideas could be shared directly with the leadership to improve things. Because again, like you said before, like I said before, we love FiveM, we love Rockstar. All we want to see is the best for it, but they need to give us the opportunity to help.
As you can see there, the issue isn't just Rockstar as a business, or Ethan, or FiveM. It's just that Rockstar need to communicate better with their community. If you go to any Discord community related to any FiveM server, you'll see a pinned post of people expressing the exact same point of view. This issue is uniform across the board, and everyone in the community can clearly agree that Rockstar's lack of communication is causing a serious amount of damage to the various communities involved. Now this brings me to Zin. Now Zin has been mentioned repeatedly in the document, both in good and bad ways, but there's a lot of kind of almost negative stuff said about him in the document. However, the bit where this confuses me a little bit is that everyone that I've spoke to who owns servers or creates mods for FiveM all says nothing but positive things about Zin, how he's helped them resolve situations, how he's helped them get to the bottom of a situation that Rockstar couldn't help them with, or that FiveM couldn't help them with, which once again has put me in a very confusing position where, is it that the document itself is misleading, or is it that the whole community just doesn't understand who Zin is, or whether he has good intentions? I'm leaning more towards the document having a narrative, because I can't think of a single reason why the whole community has sang Zin's praises when the document doesn't. For this video, I reached out to the FiveM team, the people that wrote that initial expose, and this is what they had to say. I asked them, what is the goal of the document? Is it to bring awareness of what's happening, or to help revive FiveM? They responded, this document has been created by various community members that were struggling to see improvements in FiveM and RedM. After going through this entire story, we've realised that this is not just usual problems, but issues that could potentially concern Rockstar more broadly. There are so many points that are completely not acceptable from any point of view. Long story short, we, the team behind this document, hope that it will draw attention to ongoing issues that are being blatantly ignored, even when raised internally. We also felt deeply disappointed about what happened to the original development team. These were the people that brought us all together by creating such a platform, and the way they were treated is unacceptable. Unfortunately, we wish we could have done something like this sooner, but as you may have noticed in the broader gaming industry, issues are often only addressed when those who suffer start speaking out. However, that doesn't necessarily mean they intend any harm. Now, it is worth saying that whilst this is called the FiveM team, they're not actually the team that worked on FiveM. There has been some speculation about who wrote the document. I'm not willing to speculate on that because I truthfully don't know. But if it's written internally, it's going to be biased. And if it's written by the community, it's also going to be to a certain level biased anyway, because they weren't there. They don't have access to all of the information, all of the conversations with Ethan. So we do have to say here, this isn't someone by their own claim that was internally involved with any of this. So there is going to be some biases here, and I have my own biases too. I'm not going to shy away from that. I then asked if you could summarize what went wrong, what would you boil it down to? What key factors played a part? And they responded, there were many points where things could have changed for the better. As mentioned, it's impossible to know everyone's true motivations, so we have judged people by their actions instead, but not blindly. We have tried to explain the full context as much as possible. NTA could have made an effort to be a proper manager, hired someone qualified for the role, or at least avoided personal relationships with contractors. On the other hand, Ethan Hirsch could have been a competent manager and done his job in Rockstar's best interest. We do not believe that keeping obviously lazy employees on the team, paying them industry standard salaries, and allowing them to harm the work environment is acceptable. What happened internally is a major concern on its own. Rockstar should have chosen a more responsible responsible and passionate person to oversee modding or place them under strict supervision. My next question to them was, what does the future of user-generated content look like for Rockstar? Do you think Rome would be restricted in the same way that FiveM were? And do you think that this stems from the issues in the management at Rockstar? And they responded, we don't want to speculate too much about Rome. Instead, we'd like to approach this subject from a different perspective, to understand how Rome and any future attempts by Rockstar to utilize their UGC potential could work. One only needs to look at how FiveM and RedM are being treated right now. These are large-scale projects with millions of players generating millions of euros in revenue. The fact that FiveM and RedM are in a significantly worse state than before the acquisition, in our opinion, speaks volumes. Rome represents the future of Rockstar's plans, but FiveM and RedM are here now. We are using them today, and we're willing to support Rockstar's future developments. But whilst we're here, we ask that they take care of us. Regarding potential issues, the fact that FiveM is currently filled with copyright infringing content, with some select projects and servers allowed to continue whilst others suffer from the inconsistent enforcement, is yet another example of how the community is being treated. This is not how things should work, not in a fair environment. Now, the next question I asked them was about Ethan Hirsch. Now, a few of you guys may be aware of the Liberty City Preservation Project. This was a recent mod that was taken down because Rockstar got in contact with its developers and asked them to remove it, and had a chat with them about potential future collaboration. After this FiveM team document circulated online, the Liberty City Preservation Project's website had some quite unsavory things about Ethan on the site. And then one of the collaborators on the website wrote a webpage on his own website doxing the Rockstar employee, his personal address, his personal information, and all of that stuff. Now, when talking to the Liberty City Preservation Project team, they stated that this was not their team that did it, but it was the guy that built their own website. So of course my question to the FiveM team were, what are your thoughts on the recent doxing of Ethan? And they stated, we are strongly against any form of personal attacks towards any of the individuals mentioned in this document. Whilst we did focus some of our attention on interpersonal relationships in the first parts of the document, our goal was to emphasize that these people were not necessarily bad people or bad friends. It doesn't really matter. How they treated each other is generally not our concern. Now, I will interject here. I did personally, just reading the document, feel like at least a good 80 to 85% of the document was focused around interpersonal relationships and the treatment of other people. I think maybe a lot of that stuff could have been removed, as maybe the context is useful in some circumstances, but a lot of the arguments between people internally at FiveM didn't help sell the point. That's what I'm trying to say. I also want to add that the rest of the document, no one else's real name is mentioned or used in the document, but Ethan's full real name is used. They could have referred to it as another name, a hidden identity, because the truth is, Rockstar will know who that person is. The people that are important in the inner workings of Rockstar will know who that is. The whole community doesn't need to know who's personally responsible for managing your projects. So putting his full name out there was completely unnecessary, yet it could be very damaging, as we've seen all his personal information has been leaked online. Anyway, back to their response. From what we know, yes, this did affect FiveM, but they were also FiveM contractors. Instead, we spent a significant amount of time highlighting that they were ineffective in performing the work they were supposed to do, so much so that it negatively impacted the work environment for those who had historically made significant contributions to FiveM, and even a management switch didn't help. That is the core point of this document. We want people to judge Ethan Hirsch solely as a professional responsible for his role. We do not condone any personal attacks or the doxing of Hirsch in any form. Then my last question to the Rockstar development team was, is there any final statement you want me to include in the video? And they stated, we don't want anyone to see this as an attack on Rockstar. This is not some kind of vendetta. This document was written by people who use FiveM and RedM every day. People who have been suffering the same issues, trying to bring attention to the problems and asking for improvements. The topics we've highlighted about FiveM and RedM are not new or unknown. They're simply an accumulation of concerns that the majority of users have likely had. We have spoken to many different community members to validate our concerns, and you can visit the CFX.RE forums and find dozens of topics outlining the various problems we've mentioned, and even more. Additionally, we've received an overwhelming amount of support. Many people have emailed us, genuinely thanking us for sharing this document. So there you have it. As you can see from those two prior conversations I've had, this feeling is uniform across the board. This isn't an issue that would take Rockstar months or years to fix. Rockstar need to make bulletproof terms of service, enforce it across the board, have a feedback system where people can see how and why their server/mods infringe on the rules, and they need a plan of action for correction for the people that are building things for these platforms. Now, whilst making this video, a few developments have taken place. One of the people Rockstar employ who formerly worked on the Alt5 project was actually involved in the GTA 5 source code leak that happened in 2023. This was exposed in the initial document, and I'm hearing from a lot of people in the community that he has now been fired from Rockstar. And realistically, he'll probably be looking at legal action in a big way. I think this speaks of a core issue at Rockstar that this person ever got hired in the first place. That's concerning. Everything we've just gone through tells a story of unprofessionalism on all parts. Rockstar is a company that thrives on secrecy. But what happens when the secrecy comes at the detriment to the community that makes Rockstar so successful? I think Rockstar really need to understand that 99.9% of the community just want dialogue. They want to understand the rules so we can abide by them. And I don't just mean for FiveM either. There's hundreds of people being banned from Rockstar's Discord server. There's people's GTA Online accounts being banned for doing nothing wrong. There's servers being taken down on FiveM for breaking a rule that 10 of the servers break and receive no consequences for at all. This leads me to believe that I'm fairly certain that the 20 million that Rockstar paid for FiveM was just to buy FiveM out of the market. And I do think that after FiveM was purchased by Rockstar, they realized it wasn't scalable due to maybe some of these internal issues. Now that is just speculation, we really don't know. But it's very realistic to assume that they probably just wanted to focus on their own service, the Rockstar Online modding engine, Rome. Do I blame Rockstar as a business? No. But does this worry me about the future of FiveM and Rome? Yes. Simple things such as community management isn't something that should be taboo. Rockstar isn't a niche developer making fringe games anymore. Rockstar should engage with their communities, whether it's people that make FiveM content or even content creators on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it might be. The truth is, most of us feel like we don't exist. Rockstar used to promote mods on social media. They used to share creators. They used to share artwork all the time. And now it feels a little bit disjointed. I think what worries me from a directional point of view is, from what we've seen publicly, Rockstar are choosing to work with creators that really don't have much interest in Grand Theft Auto. They just have a big audience. And that shows that maybe Rockstar's prioritizing traffic rather than the quality of the traffic. I had a Rockstar developer tell me that they enjoyed my video once, and it honestly blew my mind that someone at Rockstar even watched my content. Now, I know logically it makes sense, but as far as I've been concerned, and as far as a lot of the developers that work on FiveM related projects and a lot of people in the community as a whole, we always feel like there's a Rockstar community and a Rockstar Games. And they're two separate things. Rockstar need to work on their community service and their creator outreach, and their collaboration with developers that actually make them money in FiveM and other modding services. If Rome is the future of Rockstar's online model, they can't run it like this. Now, whilst making this video, I've been very public about the fact I was working on the project, and I invited many people in to have interviews, have conversations, and I spent in total an hour on the phone with Jetro, I spent an hour on the phone with McTannon, and a few people just from within the GTA community, just to discuss the narrative of how I approach this video and how I try and do this in as fair way as possible that maybe can lead to two sides of a picture. Now, something that I found very interesting about me talking about making this video was I had a significant amount of people within the FiveM community reach out to me to make sure that when I talk about NTA, the original creator of FiveM, that I use the correct gender pronouns. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics of how you identify people, what's right, what's wrong. Quite frankly, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to convey as accurately as possible my perception of the FiveM situation. But when actually talking to some of these people within the FiveM community and asking like valid questions about the topic and asking for feedback on their opinions and stuff, when the conversation kept getting diverted to making sure I address NTA's gender pronouns accurately, and that was to them one of the most important things, it started to make me see this whole situation in maybe a different light. I feel like now, looking at the document with the lens of the feedback I've got from a lot of the FiveM community and the side of the FiveM community that are
particularly focused on the way I address people in the video, I'm starting to feel like this whole document and a lot of the themes around this are slightly tainted. The whole idea of the document is 100% spot on, and I agree exactly with what the motivations and the goals are of the document. But when you look at the document through a different lens, where there's constant arguments within the FiveM community, and the interpersonal relationships and the politics of managing people seems to be the most important element of the document, especially in terms of the percentage of the document that actually covers these topics, I feel like it takes away from what we're trying to do as a community. We want communication with Rockstar, and my purpose of this video is to maybe get seen by someone at Rockstar and to get them to understand that all of the backlash they're getting is not because anyone dislikes Rockstar or hates Rockstar. We love Rockstar. That's why we're all in this community. But when people are preemptively attacking me, assuming that I'm going to use the wrong gender pronouns on a video, which, to be honest, NTA's gender pronouns do not matter in the context of what's actually important in this video. Yes, by itself, it's probably an important issue and people can address that elsewhere. This video isn't about that. But I got the general sense that a lot of people within the FiveM community were more concerned about how I addressed NTA than anything else. And at that point, obviously, no one had seen the video. You may have noticed throughout this whole video, I haven't referred to NTA as any gender. I've left gender out of the equation until now. And I wrote the whole intro to the script before any of those conversations happened. Now, the person I interviewed earlier, Pickle Mods, they were in one of these FiveM related Discord servers and they got kicked from the server because when they found out that he was being involved in a video, their biggest concern was making sure that he used the correct gender pronouns for NTA. And if these people are moderating servers that are related to FiveM and they're considered to be in quite relevant positions within the FiveM community, this is an example of how something so menial, when at the moment the biggest focus is making sure Rockstar sort the situation out. But to the people that represent the community, that are in powerful positions within the community, such as moderators that moderate the conversations that happen around the topic, when their primary focus isn't about the truth, getting Rockstar to sort things, but it's about making sure the correct gender pronouns are being used, that takes away from the argument of what's actually important here. Over the past few days, when I've been talking about the fact I'm making a video on this topic and trying to reach out to people, I've been met with brick wall after brick wall after brick wall of not being able to get information out of people because their priorities were nothing to do with the FiveM community. Their priorities was making sure they look good in my video. Their priorities were making sure that I use the correct pronouns or I promote their product or service. I even had someone within the FiveM community demand I pay them a significant amount of money just to talk to them about the topic. My goal to interview them was to get a high-powered person in the community to voice their concerns, but their biggest concern was me paying them. Stuff like this takes away from the importance of these issues that we're trying to discuss. So I wanted to add this into the video because that's contextual knowledge that's very important when it comes to the optics of this document. Now, with all of this being said, I did reach out to NTA to ask for a comment. I got no response. I actually reached out to a number of people that were named within the document, asking for comments on it, and a lot of them have either said the document's inaccurate or a lot of them have straight up just denied to make any comment at all or haven't replied.
Now, the full document is linked below. I haven't even scratched the surface of what that document covers. I've tried to include some of the key turns of events to make this as informative as possible without being 9 hours long. My hope is that as someone that has a voice in the community, albeit a small voice, maybe there's a chance that someone at Rockstar may see this and understand that we don't feel like Rockstar's the enemy. No one feels like Rockstar's the enemy. It's very clear from the general consensus from the community that people just want to play by the same rules. People want to understand what they need to do things right. People want communication. Now, I'm not saying that this is a systematic part of Rockstar's culture, but the secrecy is damaging to their relationships with their communities. Now, this situation is of course very complicated, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about it over the coming days, weeks and months, and maybe even years. But hopefully this helps summarize a general overview of what's going on and maybe a way that it can be addressed and fixed going forwards. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.